I'm coming to get you. You in the kitchen. In the goddamn refrigerator.
I sure am hungry.
Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Morning Dinner Podcast. It's your boy, Keem Chuck, and we host the Morning Dinner Podcast, a podcast based out of Las Vegas where we sit down and have conversations and pretty much just shoot the shit with local entrepreneurs, creators, and hustlers. Today, we got Kelly Bennett in the house.
Hey.
Hi, Kelly.
Hey.
It's our first time meeting.
Yeah, this is incredible. Thank you so much for having me.
How's your experience so far?
So far, so good. Yeah. I feel very inspired just like being in your space and seeing how you all are setting up and the mindset behind it. And I've been following on social, so I feel like I do know you guys.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm really
social media is crazy how you can just
love.
How you can just meet people that you've never met before, and then
you could live their lives.
Connect.
It's crazy.
Totally.
You know what's funny is this happened with Chuck's brother. I haven't seen him in the longest time, him or his wife or his kids, but I've seen them always post their kids on their Instagram story, and just seeing them grow throughout the years, to the point where I saw them one day, they were already like 3 or 4 years old, and I'm like, dude, I feel like I know your kids, like their personality.
You're like, how was baseball practice?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's awesome.
Back on track. Real quick, do you want to give the people a quick rundown of who you are and what you do out here in Vegas?
Totally. So I'm a local creative. I am super passionate about curating a community-based economy. So I work with different brands and projects to really help facilitate that, from helping build brands that are socially conscious, that are lifestyle brands, to then educating consumers on why to shop those local brands and businesses, and then creating experiences where the brands and the consumers can hang and hopefully buy from each other, like exchange ideas, and then really empower those stories of how that's all coming together. And that's what I've been super passionate about since I'm 18 years old. I now have the words to articulate what that vision is. I'm from Long Island, New York, and people were like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, I would just draw circles, and I was like, there's going to be brands and businesses I work on and the people, and we're going to hang and support each other and do good in the world. They're like, don't know what you're talking about, but that's really cute. And now, like, I just turned 34, so it's been a minute. Like, I've really been had this vision, and now it's really starting to come to life. Right. And I'm super stoked to talk about it.
Nice. So the way you kind of mentioned it right now, you made it sound easy. Like you were 18 and now you're 34, and then you had a vision in your head and then you accomplished it, right? Yeah. But it wasn't an overnight success. It didn't happen overnight.
Sure, not overnight. No.
Can you kind of like walk us through the experience of what led you? First of all, what led you from New York to Las Vegas, and then what made it so that you wanted to be a creative and you wanted to be like a kind of like a curator for the arts and all that stuff?
Totally. So I'll back up a little bit more. Coming from Long Island, New York, I was always in like dance and performances, and I come from a very like funny family. Like half of our family members are on the radio and comedians, and my sister's an actress.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I just always grew up in a very fun, very active, always doing shows and stuff like that. But I sucked at school. I'm dyslexic. I had an undiagnosable learning disorder growing up. I still do. It's basically like a reading comprehension disorder. So I sucked at like standardized tests. I just couldn't spell. Everything was scrambled. And so on paper, it just looked like I was like literally out to lunch. Yeah. And I was like, no, because I'm an entrepreneur. I want to own businesses. And they were like, oh, that's adorable. Again, that's adorable. But we don't see that happening for you. Wow. So you should learn a trade, because I didn't get into any colleges when everyone was going away to college. But there was a community college that basically took in anybody. So I was like, done. I'm going to go there and I'm going to study business. And I just engulfed myself in this mission to be a business person and to prove people wrong. That was initially what it was. So I went to school in New York. I did an internship in London because originally I was studying fashion. And then again, just like trying, experimenting, tasting, and just putting myself out there to learn and to just be devoted to learning and curating this vision I had. And then my parents, just being born and raised in New York, the that's a whole long story, but they were like over living in New York. And so they're like, we're going to move out to Vegas. I have family out here. We were coming like my school vacations. Most kids went to like Disneyland. I always went to Vegas to like the casinos and like come back to New York with like slot machine keychains.
Right.
And so we were already familiar with it. And so my parents were like, hey, try to go to UNLV, see if you get accepted. My sister and I both got in. And so we all moved together. And that was like 14 years ago. And then...
So you were out here like in 2004 or 5?
Yeah, because I graduated in 2003. So probably like 2005.
So you came out here when MySpace started popping.
Yeah.
Basically.
Nice.
Yeah, shout out to MySpace.
That's essentially how I reference time now. Like,
Me too.
That's
like
around the age of Twitter, right? The peak of Twitter was like 2010, right? Like,
totally.
Was
I do that too.
When did it come out? 2004?
it had a short run. I want to say like 2003 to 2006 was like the prime of it.
Short but powerful run.
Short but powerful.
Short but powerful. Effective enough to change the world.
Yeah,
I would
definitely
say.
got it started.
Yeah. Sorry, continue.
No, shout out to MySpace. So I went to UNLV, and again, just wanting to be on this vision and mission. And so I studied everything and anything I can. So I ended up graduating with 4 degrees from UNLV. I studied abroad. I lived in Chengdu, China twice.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And just, again, wanting to learn and educate myself. And really, I had a chip on my shoulder. I was like, fuck those people who thought I couldn't be a business person or be a creative. Like, I am. I know I have this vision.
Yeah.
And so I ended up graduating with a bachelor's in marketing, a bachelor's in international business, a minor in psychology, a minor in Chinese language. And then at my previous school, I got a minor in business administration. And so I was like, okay, cool. I got all these degrees. Now I'm going to be able to like really get a really good job back in New York so that I could learn about business from like a big company. I don't know. I was just trying out, shooting the shit, kind of seeing what stuck.
I want to go out there and learn from Gary Vee.
Yes, that's very much on my list. So I went back home to New York and I couldn't get anything. I ended up working at like a juice bar and being like, fuck these degrees. And which was cool. It was very humbling. And it also taught me that it's not about the accolades. It's about the journey. And it's about what you're learning in the day-to-day, in the grind, in the hustle. And so I was like, okay, cool. This is what we're doing. So I kept going back and forth to New York City and Vegas, where my parents are. Honestly, whenever I would run out of money, I would come back to Vegas and be like, knock, knock, hey, mom and dad, can I have my old room? I ran out of money. Yeah. So I did that quite a few times. And so on one of my trips back to Vegas, it was actually my dad. He had a newspaper clipping that he had like saved for me, and he was like, hey, there's this cool stuff going on downtown. There's a beat coffee shop, like there's some energy around it. Zappos sounds like it's going to be moving downtown. Like, this is a cool opportunity. And I was like, whatever, dad, because like it's your dad.
Yeah,
so, like,
your dad's ideas are never like the best. Like, you know, until your friends start saying them.
Be quiet.
Totally.
And
be
then
quiet,
they're cool.
old man. Don't know
I was
anything.
like, whatever, dad.
Good job,
I'm going
Dad.
back to New York City. Like, that's where it's at. And he's like, I'm telling you, Kel, like, you gotta go to this coffee shop. So I was like, whatever. I had nothing else to do. So I went to the coffee shop and I got inside. I was like, oh shit, this is legit. Like, I just felt it. So I went on Twitter because in that journey too, when I was in Vegas right after college, I worked for an ad agency, and my first gig was getting the MGM Grand on Twitter.
Ooh.
That was like my first social media job.
That's a dope first gig.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. I remember the mixer and the marketing director at the time of the MGM Grand Hotel was like, do you think social media is going to be important for businesses? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, do you know how to do it? I'm like, yeah, but really I didn't know. And
Really,
I
I had just downloaded the app.
yeah. And I was like, no, totally. I know how to do it. I could totally do it for you. And she's like, okay, yeah, I'll hire you. So I was like, yeah, totally. So then I was like Googling how to use Twitter for business. But anyway, so I went on Twitter and I was tweeting out like, hey, does anyone know what's going in downtown Las Vegas? And then people were hitting me back. And then honestly, I started meeting people from Twitter at the beat and just got connected with that community. Doing a lot of work for free, honestly, just to get my name out and to kind of like test out the thesis that I had. So I was working on building brands and then educating consumers on supporting these lifestyle brands and then creating these experiences for the consumers and brands to come together, and then storytelling of that on my social media. And it was starting to, people were like, okay, I get what you're doing. I get your vibe. So I got to test out ideas, and then I went back home to New York City. Long story short, and a lot of tears and like, what the fuck is life moments. You
gotta have a couple of those though. You know, if you're
you have to.
If you want to be a successful like entrepreneur,
till the day you probably die, you're gonna have those.
Totally,
you know?
I still have them. And so then I met Chef Donald Lemperly.
Who's that?
So he's the founder of Vegination.
Oh, okay.
And I met him about 8 years ago now.
You met him out in New York or?
No, here.
Oh, here in Vegas.
He's from New York though too.
Oh, wow.
He saw me at an event that I was volunteering at, essentially, and was like, hey, if we have this cool brand and these consumers who want to support brands like this and create an experience, I'll do it. Like, I'll be on the team. And he came to one of the events. He was like, this is cool. I like your vibe. And I'm like, awesome. And then he like found my phone number and he called me. He said, hey, I'm going to open up a vegan restaurant. It's called Vegination. There's going to be a green wall. There's going to be reggae music. There's going to be community table. You're going to be my business partner and we're going to open it up. And I was like, okay.
Wait, he said that like just there? All that?
Didn't even,
Wow.
I didn't, I was
That's
like,
dope.
cool. Yeah. Okay. And he was like, all right, I'm going to need the business concept in 2 days. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, can I meet you in person? He's like, yeah, I'll meet you tomorrow at the beat at 3:00. And I was like, all right, cool. And then like just hung up the phone. I was like,
wow.
what?
And what does it mean by business concept?
So basically, I wrote out the concept like, hey, Vegination is this community-based
like
restaurant.
Plan?
It's kind of like a business plan, but it's more of like the overall what's going to be the vibe.
Like the phases to like building? Or
no,
just like
the concept of what it is. Like, what is the
branding.
vision and mission and branding, and how is it going to engage in the community? And it's
so
like
it's
a business plan.
more essentially like the marketing side of it, not
like the
floor
numbers
plans.
or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I wrote up the concept of like how the brand was going to be curated, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna go back to New York though, because like there were some cool projects I wanted to work on there. I lived in the first urban farm in New York City in Astoria, and that was really cool. So I was like, hey, call me back when you have the money and the place, and I'll come back. And then a few years went by. We just kept in touch, and then he called me one day, like 4.5 years ago now, and he was like, hey, I have the money, I have a location, come back. And I'm like, okay. So I left everything, and all my friends were like, you're fucking crazy. What are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. I have a good feeling. Like, I have nothing to lose, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm single. I don't have kids. Like, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like, these are the moments I live for.
Right.
And so I came back 4.5 years ago. I moved downtown, and I've been here ever since.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
you said We the Beat. Is that the one that was like even before Commonwealth and all that, right?
Yeah, that was like
that
one of the first
gift shop or whatever was across the street from it. Is Eureka now?
Yeah,
right? Okay.
yeah. And I haven't been inside because I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah,
I miss
I know.
the beat.
That's crazy though.
Yeah.
So that's wild.
I gotta ask, how did you know not to? First of all, how did you know like not to get tied down financially to certain things? Because I know a lot of people they have this preset thing of like, I'm gonna go to college, and then as soon as they graduate from college, they look for a job that affords them to get a house, to get a car, to get all these things that are gonna tie them down, right?
Totally.
It seems like you had the ability to move around and follow your passion however you wanted to.
Subways in New York.
Yeah.
Is that a big
I love public transportation, and I don't even have a car here. I take Lyft everywhere if I need to leave downtown, but I rarely leave downtown.
No, I'm just
Not really. My goal is to like be sponsored by Lyft. I'm like, I could create content of
That'd
like
be
this
so
girl who's like building businesses and cool things.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lyft. I'm here. I'm ready. I have the ideas. But anyway, what was your question?
Sorry. Sorry.
I was just thinking about my content.
not getting tied down to.
Yeah.
yeah.
How did that mindset come across you?
I think it's always been in my nature to be very minimalistic, and even from a very young age, I saw that I didn't want to be tied down to like.
She did it. She just
What?
did it. She should die down.
Oh yeah.
So we have a recurring concept on this
Really?
show where basically I will swap around my words,
And then people do it?
and,
Yeah.
No, sometimes people do it, but
he tried to say tax bracket, but he was like talking all normal.
I said,
and then he said brax tag
it.
And I was like, how'd you do that?
Yeah.
Like
that's funny.
That's interesting.
And then we had a guy talking about how his cousin became his manager. And then I said, so how did your manager become your cousin? And it was just like a swap, kind of like your brain works in reverse ways. I don't know what that's called, but it happens sometimes. Is that what it is?
When you swap stuff like that? Yeah.
I have dyslexia.
Is it like an internal one?
I'm not a doctor.
It's very mild because it doesn't happen every day. It's very, but sometimes I will notice. I will notice it like I won't even.
I think you just talk too fast and you think too fast. And
sometimes when your brain is just like working really fast. But anyway, no worries. I just always felt this pull to live minimal. And it's been from a very young age. All my friends knew that like as soon as I would buy a shirt, I would give them a shirt. Like I didn't want to have too much of stuff.
Ooh.
So they would like put stickers on stuff that I had. They're like, we know you're going to get rid of it. So when you do, like, I want this. They would call dibs on stuff. So I don't know. That was always just part of me because I grew up in an area that there was a lot of stuff. Like if you like something, you got a lot of it. It was just like a lot of consumption.
Yes.
And I've always felt this pull that wherever I am, I want to be like counterculture.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the inner rebel in me. So I'm like, no, I'm going to be the opposite. I'm going to be like a minimalist. I didn't have those words necessarily at the time because no one really lives like that there. But yeah, I just had that in my mind. For a really long time, I'm like, I'm only going to have enough that fits in a suitcase and then I could go anywhere.
But your style is super dope. Like those glasses, everything.
Thank you. And I don't even have that much stuff because now I live in an Airstream, which totally aligns with that.
Can we explain to people what an Airstream is, just so if they don't know what that is?
Yeah, it's funny because my Lyft driver here, he was just very curious about my life because he was like picking me up at the Airstream park. And then he's like, oh, are you going home? And I'm like, no. But then I didn't feel the need to explain where I was going. And then he was just like, well, where are you going? And I'm like, I'm going to do this podcast. I'm like, okay, Lyft driver. Like, I'm trying to like catch up on emails. Like, that's actually why I like to take Lyft. I'm multitasking. But anyway, what I explained to my Lyft driver today was that like, it's like an RV. It's like
a motorhome.
Yeah, but it's like sleek and sexy.
Why do they call it Airstream?
That's the brand.
Oh, okay.
It's a metal circle.
Like Winnebago. That's a brand.
Is it really?
Winnebago's a brand, bro.
I never knew this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Airstream is the brand, and it's been around for a long time. One of my neighbors, she has like vintage Airstreams that she's rehabbed, and then she rents them out for different events and stuff like that. So yeah, I live in one of those and it's cool. It totally aligns with how I want to live and how I seek to be.
Plus it's also super cool that you're downtown where all the action's happening. So you're probably constantly surrounded by the life of downtown. Cause I know there's always things that are happening around that area, right?
Yeah. So I live at Ferguson's downtown, which is just so cool. Like honestly, every day I'm like, damn, this is a really cool experience, especially for a creative and an entrepreneur. Basically, it's a neighborhood rooted in community. And it's a city block. And in the front of Ferguson's, it's going to have restaurants and shops with local brands. There's music that's going to be there, and like this underground coffee shop bar. Creative studios on top. And then the alley across the street, and that's activated for Market in the Alley, Pour in the Alley. Some really cool events coming up too.
We're going to talk about all that.
Okay, cool. And so it's basically a city block, and then it's co-founded by my good friend Jen Toller.
Okay.
And Tony Shea, and Jen is in charge of being the creative strategist of putting it all together. And she invited me to do winter camp there a year and a half ago, and I never left. And I stayed for the winter, and I was like, this is cool. And just being around, like literally, I tell people, they're like, how do you do all the things you do? I'm like, I live, breathe, and sleep it. Like, it's literally when I go and get a glass of water, I'll see someone like, oh, hey, like, and just have conversations and whether you call it like collisions and just like hanging around people, and we all work together on different projects and just being neighbors and friends. It's a really cool experience. I personally love community living, and I just didn't think it was available here in Vegas. And then coming in there, I'm like, damn, this is cool. So
yeah, that's some next level though, because everybody around you is kind of like you know, you're all doing something crazy.
Everyone's doing something really cool.
Instead of just like a community where everybody's just like living their normal life.
Yeah.
Not a bad thing, you know, not hating on anybody's lifestyle, but I definitely, you know.
It depends on what your goals are.
That's why I like having him around, because we can like see each other improving in life and be like, oh,
go faster.
I just want to point out, he kind of said it like he's got me in a corner somewhere. That's why I like having him around.
I just have him sitting in a stool.
I actually have a cage in this house.
Yeah.
I live in this little cage, and he just lets me out sometimes
for creative inspiration.
But yeah, no, I mean, I feel you, because I was gonna say, even as somebody like us, we're not necessarily super always in downtown or in the creative area. You are sometimes, but you kind of already have your things that you got going on. We always get word of mouth, like gigs coming to us, like, oh, here's this photo event, oh, here's this video event, and that's not even being rooted in the community. Imagine if we were, it'd be amplified by like tenfold. You know?
So just come and hang out.
I'm about to. Let's go there.
I'm not cool
there's
enough.
always, you're totally cool enough. It's for everybody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah, everyone's welcomed. And there's different events where we all open our home to the community to do different things, like jam sessions is the second Friday of the month. And that's really amazing. And my friend Tree Hill is now working on helping curate that too. And just bringing more community and more people together. Like, there's a true, like, legit magic that you feel when people come together over good, you know, like good music, good art. Like Market in the Alley is an awesome version of that too.
And what's that?
So that's a curated market by Ferguson's Downtown. I'm on the team for that. And
nice.
My friend Ashley and I curate it. So we're in charge of vendor outreach, setting up the venue with vendors and experiences and music and art, and just like the kind of like uniqueness of a curated market.
I love that venue so much too.
It's so cool.
The grass?
It's beautiful.
Is that the one with the grass?
The AstroTurf? Yeah. And the murals with the lights. It's really sexy. So my friend Jen is the founder of it, and then that's been going on for 2 years now. And then we signed on in January. We did a takeover last year and it went awesome. And then in January, we signed on officially to curate it. So we do all the social marketing. We work with this awesome guy, Jared, who does digital ads for us. And we have a great production team. And
so dope.
Yeah. I want to hit on the point that you mentioned about curating, because I feel like that's a word that I just recently started hearing.
Yes.
Like within the last 2 or 3 years, right? You're a curator, you curate these things. What does that mean exactly? Like for somebody who explain it to the 60-year-old grandpa.
Totally.
Who probably maybe doesn't have an Instagram account. What does curating mean?
So curation is like putting all the pieces together. That's it. You put all the pieces together for an experience.
Right. So that's not just social media. That's physical, right?
How I use it, yes. So I say, like, online I curate content and create content, and then in real life I curate experiences, and then I curate like workshops and events and activations, and then collectively I'm curating this economy with consumers and with brands. So I just see the word curation as like that, bringing all the pieces together and making it feel like a refined experience. Nice.
Damn.
You had mentioned that you met with I forgot what his name, Chef Donald. And you started working at Veggie Nation, partnering up with him essentially as a creative director, right?
Yep.
What's a creative director? Like, in your opinion, in your own words, what's a creative director? Because I've heard many different definitions of it.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because when I use the term creative director 4.5 years ago, people were like, what is that? Is that a marketing director? Is that what? So what I like to say is, like, creative director is you're in charge of all the creative pieces and making sure it's cohesive with the brand and the curation. So, like, with Veggie Nation, I'm one of the owners, and my job as one of the owners is to curate all the creative. So from curating the space to curating how the menu comes together, how the uniforms are, to all the events within the space, the activations, how people are explaining the brand, working with the management team to go over how the menu is explained and curated, from really the way that someone travels to the restaurant and then leaves, like, thinking through what is that experience. And then also too, all of our social marketing. Now I have a PR team, Authentic Public Relations. They're amazing. They really are helping me because it's a lot of work. So they help me with PR now.
And can we explain PR too?
Public relations.
Yeah.
So they're really awesome. They help basically find media opportunities in
Like
traditional
blogs,
media.
news outlets, or
More like TV, websites, some
okay.
blogs, radio, podcasts, anything to help spread your message, which is really supportive and amazing, because when you're in the midst of it, sometimes like you get tapped out of like the reach that you have. So they're helping me build that reach.
Right.
And they're amazing.
We always say on this podcast that there's a lot of moving parts to a thriving business. There's like, and if you're going to have a thriving business and you're the owner or co-owner, you can't necessarily focus on everything. You have to delegate things out, right? So
absolutely.
Can you speak to that?
Totally.
Yeah.
So thankfully I have an awesome business partner who is all food. That's his thing. He is born and raised in the culinary industry. He personally went vegan 15 years ago to help heal his cancer diagnosis, and he did that successfully.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's why he was so inspired to build a vegan restaurant for the community. So
he didn't even like go through chemotherapy or anything
he did
like
like
that?
one round of radiation, but that was it.
He's like, it's not for me.
Yeah, he was like, no.
Man, that makes me so happy hearing that.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
and we have so many people coming who are seeking to heal, which is incredible. And so he's all food. So he curates like the menu, and then I'll come in and like help name stuff and like make sure the menu looks cool. And I work with a graphic designer of like layout and all that good stuff. We have a really cool like illustration of the menu too. And so he's all food. He runs the kitchens, make sure that everything on marketing happens food wise. And then we have an awesome manager, Travis, who is my go-to to make sure that the staff is queued in, catering orders are fulfilled, that the day-to-day, making sure they have inventory of stuff. And even today, like, they had new mugs and I didn't even have to think about it. And he just got new mugs that I would have approved because now he understands my eye. And it was a really cool moment. I was like, wow, this is cool, you know, because before it was that little stuff would be on me too. Right. And now he gets the vision.
And now you guys have that synergistic effect.
Yeah. And it felt really, really good today when I saw that happen. But yeah, it's definitely a team. And then the front of the house team is incredible, super personable. We like to be known for our customer service and giving awesome service. And then the back of the house team, many of them, even front of the house too, has been with us from the beginning. A lot of them came from the MGM when Chef left the MGM. He was an executive chef at one of the restaurants. A lot of them came with him, and they're still with him, which is incredible. So we have really high brand retention with customers and with our team, which is incredible and super proud of. And but it definitely takes a community of dedicated people to do that. And now we have 2 locations, one downtown and one in Henderson.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
Congrats.
Just doing.
Wait,
thank you.
When the other one opened?
It's like a year and a half.
Okay.
So it's still young and
Is it
building
bigger
that.
than the one
yes,
downtown?
I have so much more space. So if you want to do a cool event, hit me up. Henderson is where it's at. And then so as a curator, my job then as like creative director was like setting up the new space in Henderson, and how do I storytell that it's the same brand but slightly different, because if I just took a cookie cutter of downtown in Henderson, it wouldn't work. It's a different demographic, it's a different community. So how do I elevate different elements of our ethos to storytell and have it connect with that demographic, and how do I activate it differently but also on the same page?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that's a big part of my work.
And one thing I was gonna ask too, like just going on like being creative and thinking of like the branding and everything and how everything correlates, like how long did that take you to actually get to that position where you're able to like just know how to do things, or is it still challenges a lot of the times?
I would say I've been working on that craft for a while. So I had my first business at 16. So I've always worked
doing
with
what?
I would do hair and makeup.
Oh, that's
and
dope.
made my room into a salon, and then like all the weekends I would have like a line out the door, and it was really cool. So that was my first time of like creating my brand without knowing that like what a personal brand was. So I've been doing it for a long time. Both my parents are entrepreneurs, and so I've just been around that for a long time. Like really coming from New York too, I think everyone has a business or a side hustle. Like I just grew up in that environment.
Right.
So I would say now it's more refining my craft.
Yeah.
Now it's like, how do I clean up the edges? How do I dive deeper into what I'm the best at and how do I delegate the rest and how do I work with other freelancers and entrepreneurs and creatives to do the other parts that I'm not that good at or enjoy doing and work as a collective. So yeah,
because there's like some things too, like where I still like I'm pretty confident in most of the things I do in my creative field, but there is some certain things that I get and I start getting a little nervous. You know, I'm like, damn, can I do this? Will I be able to do it? Will I? And then I start questioning myself, like, damn, am I going to be impressive? Am I going to do good? And then it usually goes smooth, but
something that we teach in the workshop downtown, which I also help create. It's a curated workshop series for local creatives. And a big part of it is just say yes and you'll figure it out. And we're going to help you figure it out.
Hands on.
You know, like just, a lot of the, like, I didn't fucking know about restaurants. I went to restaurants.
You know what? That's funny because a lot of people that are successful just throw themselves into it and then they learn it, right?
That big old fire under you.
That's what I do. Honestly, like a lot of the stuff I do, I've never done before.
You're badass.
I've just been working on my craft as a creative and what I do best of building brands and educating consumers and creating experiences and storytelling. And I've just been working on that craft, but then I've been applying it to different industries and different experiences that I've never done before. And I love it.
Nice.
Keeps it fresh too.
Going back to the whole brand building, because you do a lot of that. What do you think are some tips that you would give to somebody who wants to create their own brand or their own lifestyle brand, if you will? Like, what are some tips that to kind of put them on the right track to creating a successful brand?
Totally. So I like to start off with like, what is your brand? Like, what are you doing? How do you do it? Why do you do it? How does it work? And who do you seek to work with? And when you flesh that out, you could get a pretty clear concept on paper. And I like to write it on paper. Some people vision board.
I'm definitely going to write that down. That's
cool. It's simple. And then not overthinking it, just write down what comes to mind. And then I like to practice on strangers too. So actually when I do go in lifts and someone's chatting me up, I'm like, okay, Kelly, this is a moment to be present. And they're like, because they're always like, where are you going or what do you do? And I'm always going to like a project or event.
But they're just trying to get that extra star rating on their,
whatever. I'm practicing.
Was very communicative. I can't even say communicative. How do you say it? Communicative. I put an extra C in there. My bad.
Okay.
It said dyslexia kicking in.
Yeah. I realistically can't do small talk. Like I'll do it, but I'm like, damn, this is so hard.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about?
But for me, I use it as an opportunity. Like anybody, wherever you go, it doesn't have to just be in a lift, but like someone's like, oh, what do you do? And so I just practice too, saying it out loud. And then now I'm refining what that looks like and feels like. And I would just check in with myself. Like, do I get excited when I'm talking about this? Or does it feel kind of off? Or like, what kind of questions came up when I said it, presented an idea like this? And I would just practice. And I still practice. But I do that a lot.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Very cool.
I'm going to start doing that too.
Yeah.
So, cause like one thing that I've learned as a creative, cause we do a lot of video projects and photo projects, and people always ask me like, oh, I want to shoot a photo or I want to shoot a video. At first, I just initially said, like, I would sign on to the project and be like, okay, let's do whatever. But now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, well, what kind of project are you trying to work on? What message are you trying to send? What vibe or what kind of like, when people watch your video or look at your photo, what feeling do you want to invoke, right? Because those are the key questions that are going to play a part role of like, is somebody going to like that or someone even going to care about that?
That's super important and something that I'm personally very passionate about. So now all the brands that I work with, I'm like, what's the social impact you want to make? Like, what's the local impact you want to make on the community? And I'm really particular with what I say yes to because I am seeking to build this impact and I'm only aligning myself with brands and people and experiences that align with that. So in the beginning, I was turning down a lot of work and I was living at like my parents' house at the time because it was one of those times where I like,
dang, that's ballsy.
Lost all my money. I'm living with my parents and my mom's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you need to get a job. I'm like, no, it doesn't align with my morals, ethics, and values. She's like, well, you better find something. You better
sell out.
I'm like, no, I will have to live on your couch and you have to accept that because I am living consciously and I'm building conscious brands. And she's like, I don't even know.
I will say though,
But she, yeah.
I will say
But she does support.
that's super dope that your parents do support what you're trying to go after, you know, because I know like with my parents, they're very traditional and they would say, no, you have to go to college and you have to get your degree so that you can get a secure job and follow a certain path, you know what I mean? But your path is kind of like wherever life leads you, the opportunities that it brings you, that's going to dictate where you end up.
I want to write a book called Your Kid Will Be Okay. And it's basically a handbook that you'll give your parents when you are a creative and you are an entrepreneur.
That's tight.
Damn.
And it's going to be like, your kids are going to be okay. Because like, honestly, that wasn't always an easy journey for my parents. Because at times they were like, what are you doing? I tell this story. My mom says that she doesn't remember it, but it really for real happened. I was making YouTube videos because I launched a blog because I was like super depressed. I'm like, what the fuck? Like I went to college, I did all those things, educated myself, learned Chinese, studied abroad, and like I couldn't get any work except for a juice bar, which is cool. But I'm like, I want to build businesses. Like how can I get in? And so I was making YouTube videos and talking about veganism, and my mom overheard me like talking to myself, but I was making YouTube videos. And then she was like, Kelly, I think you have like your vitamins are off or something. You keep talking to yourself. I'm like, no, Mom, I'm making YouTube videos and I'm going to be a blogger. And she's like, I don't know what a blog is. You're going to the doctor. And she brought me to the doctor and she was like, you need to do blood work on my daughter.
Does she sound like that though?
Yeah,
That's
she's
so
from
tight.
like super Long Island. So the doctor like did blood work on me and then came back and was like, no, her vitamins are fine. I think she's just an entrepreneur. So I always kid around that I've been like clinically diagnosed as an entrepreneur. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's a good one.
No, that literally happened.
And your mom denies it?
She says that she doesn't remember that, but I'm like, I legit remember the moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't always easy for them, but I have to say with like the restaurant, because a lot of my work was online, being a blogger and building websites and stuff like that. Now being able to go to like a physical location, that's a restaurant,
right?
And you know, like they understand what a restaurant is. Then my parents are like, okay.
She's doing something.
My mom does tell people I throw vegan parties.
Oh my God.
Which isn't totally correct, but which is fine. It's cool.
They have a funny way of like defining what you do.
So one of my things that I do like on all on all the holidays, I'm like, Mom and Dad, what do I do? And they're like, Kelly, we don't want to play this game anymore. You're changing. You're an entrepreneur. You want to do good in the world. So I'm like, okay, that's fine.
It's funny because I used to shoot a lot of videos for like Sapphire, the gentleman's club. So I shoot highlight videos for their pool club. And every time my cousins came into town, hey man, when are you gonna shoot those porn stars again? That like they just have a way of like generalizing what it is you do. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I guess I'm on porn now. I'm all right. I'm shooting a pool. Like, you know. My
aunts would say like, oh, you gonna go play video? I'm like, what do you mean play video? I'm gonna go film. Yes, I'm gonna go film. They're like, when are you going to school? Basketball, they're like, when are you gonna go to school? I'm like, I'm making.
Hey, sex work is real work too. Tell your cousins that.
Yeah, 100%. I wish it was legal.
One day.
Not for myself. Places. I'm saying for like the economy, like, you know what I mean? Like it really would help the economy. And
I agree.
I feel like in general, like sex work is just like, you know, if you're doing it for free right now, you might as well get some money for it. You know what I mean? Like,
make that money.
I'm just saying.
Get it, y'all.
Yeah.
Got a little off topic there.
Yeah. Just you know, you have those educational points for family.
Yeah.
It's not a vegan party. What is it? So what is
a vegan party? What?
Yeah, what does a vegan party correlate
I
to?
have no idea.
Oh, you still don't know?
So
I was gonna say it's like a charcuterie board, like with
vegan because it's a vegan restaurant and I throw a lot of events.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So I think that's where she got the vegan party.
I legitimately just picture like one of those like charcuterie boards with just
a lot of vegetables.
Stuff on it. Yeah. That's a party I'll be going to.
I mean, that's a cool party. I'm into it.
You know what? I always had this like stigma of like, I don't know if it's a stigma, but like this thought about veganism of like, oh, you guys just eat vegetables, you know?
Right.
That's all you do is you eat jalapenos and rice and that's it. But
it's not that.
There's so much more to that.
Yeah.
You know? Like I even, you brought some food from another vegan place and I was trying it and it tasted like, or it looked like meat or whatever. But it didn't taste like it was vegan food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's definitely come a long way.
It's
and did you hear
a long ass way?
Did you hear about Del Taco now including? They're starting to do
I swear their meat was always
questionable.
Yeah,
was
it was always
never-
just spices. It was like 90% spices.
Now they
never
use
really
the
me.
Beyond Meat, which is good. We
That's
use
tight.
the Beyond Meat for our mac and cheese burger at Imagination, and it's really, really good.
I'm gonna have to try that.
And we have a mac and cheese pizza. It's
A mac and cheese
with
pizza.
blazing hot Doritos on top. It's crazy.
With
I love it.
vegan Doritos?
Yeah. Not all Doritos are vegan, but this particular flavor
Yeah.
is.
So
Is it your custom Doritos, or did Doritos actually make that?
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
okay,
it's
okay.
Doritos, yeah.
Yeah.
The brand.
I'll have to ask, how late are you guys open till?
9 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and then 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday.
Very cool. We'll have to check that out, man.
Yeah.
I have
yeah,
to try some more
definitely.
vegan spots out
Let me
here.
know.
But going back to the whole, because you had mentioned you do workshops downtown.
Yes.
You call it the workshop downtown,
Yeah.
right? But it's not necessarily one workshop. It's a variety of different things. Can you kind of explain
Totally.
to somebody who doesn't know about this?
So
period?
the workshop downtown is curated workshops for local creatives. And basically we created a membership program where you could become a member of the workshop downtown, and then you get a brand building workshop every month and a creative workshop every month. You're listed on our creative directory that's consumer facing. So the idea is that when other people in our community want to hire creatives, they'll go to the creative directory to hire, say, a videographer,
Oh, it's like an
photographer.
agency.
Yeah, so they have a listing, and then they could put all their events,
that's tight.
social, yeah. And then we also do a local creatives meetup the first Monday of every month at Public Us in the Annex Room, and we usually get between like 50 and 80 people
What?
to come, which is really cool, and creatives from all different industries. And we always say, like, if you're a creative and you want to do good in our community, you're welcome. And those are always free. And we do like a breakfast bar and coffee on us, just again to encourage people to show up. That's like the first step. We're like, just show up. And once you show up and share what you want to do and who you want to create and what you want to create and who you want to create with, like, we could help facilitate that. So,
So dope.
yeah, we tested out the idea last year and it had some legs, and we were like, wow, people are signing up, they're paying for this. And then we also curate through the workshops that we provide for our members. Like, if a member is a local creative and wants to teach something, we'll set it up for them so they get paid for teaching, and then we set it up for them. And yeah, so we've just been working on this idea, Ashley Ayala and myself, and then her best friend Jess, who's born and raised in Vegas, recently came back to Vegas. So Jess Sells just came back, and now three of us have partnered to do it. And we don't have a physical location, but we pop up in different locations downtown.
That's super dope. Have you guys done any photography workshops yet?
We've done some, but if
Okay.
we're open for more.
Because I've always wanted to do like a lighting workshop.
Yeah, he's
Oh.
really
Yeah.
good too.
Cool. Yeah,
like just kind of
definitely.
teaching studio lighting or maybe
Definitely.
even natural. Like, I don't know. I've always had an interest for
I think
teaching other
studio
people.
lighting, because I still don't even know how to do it that well, and I'd want to learn from you. Realistically.
Totally. So yeah. So if you're a local creative and you want to teach a workshop, like, pitch us your idea. Let us know what your goal is, how much you want to make from it, how many people you could fit, ideas of location, and then we help set it all up. And then we do a revenue share. And then, yeah. So we
so
get
dope.
paid for setting it up.
Right.
You get paid for being a creative, and then we're adding value to our community.
Wow, it's like a win-win-win.
That's what we feel.
That's
yeah.
dope. That's
yeah,
dope.
and people are really digging it. And so we launched the membership in February, and we already have like 30 something members, which is cool. And then we have all these local creatives coming to our meetup. So we're just facilitating and growing it.
No, is that like a monthly membership or like
Yep.
a yearly membership?
Both. You
It's
could buy
both?
it
Okay.
monthly or yearly.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, so we try to make it as affordable as possible to curate an elevated experience and make sure it's like really quality education, but make it still affordable. So as you're a creative, as you're an entrepreneur, you could afford this education and
Right.
hopefully save you a lot of fucking money. Because I've wasted thousands of dollars. Like, I still have that shit on my credit card of like, oh my God, no, I have to do X, Y, and Z because this will help build my business. And, you know, the online class will come out and this will come out and this will help you. And I've gotten caught up in that stuff too. So I'm like, these are people that we've worked with, we trust personally, and they're providing a value to our community at a more affordable price. And then with us, they're building brand awareness, they're building their business, just a way for them to market as well. So it's been going awesome. I'm really proud of it.
That's dope. I think I might have looked at your website when I was like looking you up.
Yeah.
Or looked at the workshop downtown, and I was looking at your pricing, and I was like, wow, there's this is a pricing that people would pay to go to one workshop.
Yeah.
Like to go to one workshop. Like I know people on the East Coast who are paying $600 to $1,200, or even like I know this one photographer did a workshop in LA and they charged $1,200 for it was like a 4 or 8 hour workshop. I was like, damn.
Yeah, workshop prices can be insane.
Oh yeah.
And then, but we still have some people thinking that we're too expensive, and we're like, hey guys, like we do our best to make it as like we aren't making any money from it right now. Right. Like we're just reinvesting in the brand.
You want to know?
Like,
you kind of just hit on something that was my next key point is investing in yourself.
Yes.
You want to hit your target demographic of people who are as passionate to put the time to invest into themselves. Right.
That's one of our keys too. Of like, you have to invest in yourself. We do a tip of the week every week, and last week was like, you have to invest in yourself. Because if you're just grinding and keep thinking and just kind of like overthinking it, and you're not investing in any sort of like education or experiences, like you're going to spin your wheels. And so that's why we also make the meetups free. But then if you want to continue and invest in yourself, we make it as cost effective as possible to do so.
Wow.
Man, that's so dope. And people got to understand that. Invest into yourself. Whatever it is.
Now, last question in regards to the workshop downtown.
Sure.
Is it geared more towards beginners, pro, intermediate? Do you guys have
we have like a certain level, but I would say most of the people who find the most value from the workshop downtown are people within that 0 to maybe 3 year like getting started phase. Or there's some people who are a bit older who've been in business for a while, but then they want to learn more about like social media or marketing or community events. People who've just moved to Vegas and they want to get into the scene here, they'll join and come to our meetups as well. So it's a variety of ages. And then we also are good friends with Melissa, who founded Flaxman, who started Future Makers. She went through the workshop downtown to create her brand, and she does Young Entrepreneur Club, which is so cool. And we work with them on stuff. So sometimes in our workshops, we'll have like an 8-year-old and a 60-year-old, and from different industries and different backgrounds. And so we really are proud that we're bringing so many different kinds of people together on so many different levels, but they all have the commonality of being creative and doing good in our community.
Very cool. And you guys are all, I would assume, being in that community, you guys always pass off gigs to each other. Hey, go do this, or I need somebody to do this. And it's kind of like a, you guys feed each other, right? It's like a...
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's dope. I feel like that's one thing that is kind of like not undervalued. What's the word I'm looking for? People don't do it enough. People don't
appreciate.
Yeah, like
they don't come together because everybody wants everything for themselves.
Yeah, the value of creating a network. You guys need to hang out
at the workshop downtown, because the culture there, like we're all so, and Ferguson's downtown and Vegination. Like I have to say, I'm so proud of the people that I hang with. Like everyone's down to help each other, and so in my experiences, like I actually get more of the overwhelm of like so much stuff coming to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need more people to share this with, because it's like overflowing, which is incredible. And that's again why we want people to come and be like, hey, we know that there's this counterculture to being a creative that could be really aggressive and like dog eat dog, and like, I've faced it, especially in New York. I've come across that, but we're really building this culture that we're all creatives. We're all in this together, right? And we all can support each other, and we all could be fed. And that's why, again, I'm so passionate about talking about economics and the supply and demand. The more that we create demand, the more supply we're going to have to create.
Yep.
So, like there's going to be enough. And the more that we can rely on each other to build this economy collectively, the more we're going to be independent and self-sufficient and not have to rely on the old paradigms of doing people wrong and, fucking people over in order to get ahead. Like we're doing it in a true, honest, holistic way. And it feels good. And more people are jumping on, which is cool.
That's dope.
So dope.
Plus, when you're just that kind of person that has that positive energy, and you kind of like put that out into the world, I feel like it comes back tenfold. You know what I mean?
Totally.
As opposed to somebody's like, oh, that's my gig. I'm gonna do this.
I am happy though, because I feel like a lot more people are, but maybe there's always bad people, but a lot more people are in that realm of like treating people good. Like you don't have to fuck people over.
In Vegas, I mean, I've really had an incredible experience here so far of like people genuinely wanting you to succeed. And again, I've come across people who didn't have that passion, which is, you have those moments. You have those moments that happen to me even recently. And I'm like, okay, one got in. It's cool. But just consistently working, I'm seeking people, doing outreach too. I work with a lot of community organizers, especially within political movements who are progressives and want to see change in communities, and making sure it's not just one type of community, but all different types of communities, and connecting with them and just putting myself out there and being positive about the change we're making. And that really fuels me. So I just feel like we just are keep building and coming together.
So dope.
You had mentioned something earlier about how when you were kind of like living with your parents, and the people would come to you to do a gig or a job, and you would say no because that doesn't really gel. Like, I don't think I could do that job because it doesn't mesh well with my brand or whatever. What can you speak about? What can you say to people out there who are just like, taking gigs left and right and not really being selective? Do you think people should have like the right to just do anything they want to do? Or
I think it just depends on what your vision is and what your goals are. For me, I wanted to create a personal brand and then this community-based economy based with aligned morals, ethics, and values, because I knew it was going to be a lot of moving parts with consumers and different brands and experiences. So there has to be a continuity. There has to be a consistency. So for myself, it was doing good for the planet, doing good for animals, doing good for yourself and your health and the environment, and just doing good for the community. Like, those are things I truly believe in. And so those are the filters that I needed to pass. But, I also, my first gig out here was an underground hip hop label.
Nice.
And my job was creating the brand for the music label and then all their artists, and throw music events for all the artists to perform. And that was really cool. It didn't necessarily look exactly like the brands I work with now, but they were all creatives. They all wanted to do good in our community. I'm like, yeah, I'm down. Like, it doesn't have to look like one certain thing. I like putting myself in different environments, because like from a restaurant to a hip hop label,
a challenge.
So it was a really cool experience. And
I would say super challenging too, though, because I would think if I was a curator or like for a lifestyle brand, for multiple lifestyle brands, I would have a hard time juggling the different messages that you're trying to put out. You know what I mean? Before I was doing a lot of different stuff and they didn't necessarily all work together. Like now my portfolio of projects, they all do work with each other. So when I'm working on one, they're uplifting all the rest.
Wow, that's tight.
Yeah. So like when I'm building a relationship with a new community leader or organization, like it's able to feed into the other elements. So
that's
like
super smart too.
Thank you. Yeah. I've had this idea for a while. I'm just glad it's working, and other people are like, oh, okay, cool.
It didn't happen by accident, right?
No, this has been very intentional. A lot of like long days. I work a lot, but I again, like, this is my moment. This is the season that all the shit that I've been working on since I'm 18.
16.
Yeah, even 16, you're right, is coming to me. So I'm like, fuck it. Like, so I'll sleep in the next season, but like right now is my moment. I feel the momentum really intensely, which is beautiful, and I'm so grateful. But yeah, so like even today I was working with, I had a meeting with the Nevada Conservation League. And sometimes I don't even know where people find me from. Is it from Vegination or the workshop or the market or me personally?
Right.
My podcast. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like who are you? What do you want to work on?
Right.
And they were like, we want to do like a clothing swap at Vegination. I'm like, cool. I'm like, if you also want to do an impact station at a market in the alley, talking about Nevada conservation and creating like legislation, letter writing, like you could do, like we're open to that idea. Or if you want to teach how to be a progressive change maker in legislation, you could teach that at the workshop downtown, and then we could do a clothing swap at Vegination. Like, it's cool that I have these brands to plug so many different things in. So I'm building relationships with people, but they're able to be plugged in different experiences.
Yeah.
And then like people that, like I met Jillian Myers, the owner of Las Vegas Pilates Plus Yoga at Market in the Alley, and now she teaches yoga at Vegination Henderson. So it's really truly a community that we're all coming together. Like I found an artist at Market in the Alley, Pretty Done, and then he did a mural in Henderson.
Pretty Done, so tight.
He's so cool.
Yeah.
Adam is so cool. And he did a mural there, and then, you know what I'm saying? So we all work together, and like Eric Vizzola did a mural in Henderson, and then Jen saw it and was like, hey, Eric, can you got him commissioned to do the front gate of Market in the Alley. So again, all of the people that I'm working with, there's some consistent people, and then we're able to plug in different experiences in the different venues and spaces too.
It's so dope how you're basically you're able to create your own network and pull from it, right?
Yeah, it's cool.
And at the same time, you're helping each one of them do their thing.
Absolutely. And then a lot of the people I work with, I interview them on my podcast.
Yeah. That's so dope.
You know,
so you're
that's
even furthering your network even more, you know?
Yeah.
And I think a podcast is a super dope, essential thing for people to have nowadays.
Totally.
If they're trying to build a brand where they want people to get to know them personally, right? They want to have some personality behind the brand.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on creating podcasts? Do you feel like anyone should have a podcast? Or
I think if you have a particular message you want to share with people, why the hell not?
Right. But then again, you have people who are just like, oh, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to. I hate my voice.
And then that's not for you. Then you become a writer if you want to write. It's not for everybody, you know, like I think you have to know, and this is why I'm so inspired too by Gary Vaynerchuk, of like self-awareness, like knowing what you like, knowing what you're good at, and fucking go in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm good at talking and storytelling, but I suck at like doing taxes and paperwork. But thankfully I have business partners who enjoy that shit.
Right.
I'm like, cool, you do that, I'll create the content. And like one of my business partners too the other day was like, hey, I'll clean up the workshop space if you could write a blog post for me, a social media post. And I was like, done. I banged it out because that's what I like to do. She doesn't really like to do it. She cleaned up the workshop, and I hate cleaning. So I was like, done. Like, we could do that every day.
And you know what? I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I feel like that's an underutilized asset that
bartering?
the bartering system. Because I feel like a lot of people in the creative industry, you know, they'll have this mentality of like, oh, you have a budget of $100, I'm not going to do it. And they kind of they shoot themselves in the foot, because like you said, you've done volunteering at places where it's led to something way bigger.
Totally.
So
I think you have to vet, and I think you have to know your goals and where are you. Yeah. Like if it's a business partner of mine and it's simple, like, yeah, I would barter, but I don't barter anymore necessarily. Like someone was like, hey, I'll give you a massage if you help me with my social media. I'm like, I can't, but you could come to the workshop downtown, and you could come to a workshop, and then you pay money, and then I'll pay you money. Like I do believe in economics and capitalism to now more responsibly though. Yeah. So I don't do that, but if it's in a collective setting that we're all working together, like it's just who does what well. Yeah.
Well, I'm also not saying like, hey man, go out there and do as many free gigs as you can. No. But also like,
but if that's your goal to build your portfolio, then fuck yeah.
You have
like you said, it depends on your goal.
You have to know what your goal is.
You have to know what you're investing into, and being like, okay, is this really gonna meet the?
Or sometimes you roll the dice. You never know. Yeah. Like you truly never know.
You roll the dice for damn sure.
Yeah, like you don't, like you literally never know. So I'm always of like, what do you really want to do?
Right.
And like reverse engineer. And maybe there's those wild card moments, and usually those wild card moments are the moments that are going to help you get there. Like you can't plot it all out. But just be open to testing and tasting. And that's why, again, why I'm so passionate about living simple. I've cut down on my costs. Like, yes, I still have college debt and some credit card debt, but really I live pretty minimally. And I do that on purpose. So I am more pliable and flexible and able to shift and taste and experiment, because that's my goal, is to build this community-based economy, you know. So you have to be true to yourself and make the changes needed in order to do that. Right.
I feel like I'm slowly but surely gearing towards that minimal lifestyle.
It's cool
because just like, I mean, when we first moved into this house, like I don't have a huge room. It's like a good size, but it's like I was also looking at my closet like, okay, it's packed. I don't want to see this every day. Like, you know, and so I started putting these in a box, and I filled up like 3 or 4 boxes, and then we just put them in storage. Like, okay, I don't want to see those anymore. Yeah. But then I think about also, like, I have a whole storage unit like over on the east side that's like 600 square feet. You know, it's huge.
Damn.
For a storage unit, and it's filled with stuff that I haven't used in years. So it's like
a little garage sale.
Yeah. So, well, actually, my dad did a garage sale recently because he was moving from one house to another, and he made $6,000.
Damn. Do a sale.
And he was selling some good stuff. I was like,
it was like a 2 or 3 day garage sale he had. But he also had a lot of expensive equipment because he would do a lot of audio engineering and like mixing for music. So he would have like a speaker that was originally retails for $3,000 and he would sell it for $800, $600, you know. So it just kind of
that deal.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's a great deal for somebody who's going to use it. But he also never used it for like the last.
You should
5
do
or
like
10
a garage
years.
sale for local creatives if you have like some cool stuff and like market it to creatives, like a cool garage sale, and then put it on social. You know, like make it fun and make it part of your story. Like, hey, I have this cool podcast and we're getting some seed money and selling stuff we don't need, and like come and jam out with people, and then you could do a micro podcast series that day and record people that are going to come to your garage sale buying stuff and why they're buying it, like, and
put a whole brand behind it, like, hey, we're trying to fly out Gary Vaynerchuk. So come buy our stuff and we can fly him out here.
I had my missed encounter. You need to come back. I need to tell you that you helped change my life. No big deal.
Did you mention it on the podcast or was it before we started?
I think we were before we started.
Oh yeah, before.
Do you want to let people know about your missed encounter with Gary Vaynerchuk?
It sucks.
Shame on you.
It was so fucked up. So I knew that his team was coming. I did, because I live in a very cool community and a lot of people do come through there, which is awesome. I'm not really interested in celebrity or whatever, but I did alert everyone from like, I came in the first day, I'm like, if Gary Vaynerchuk ever comes through here, like I need alerts. I need you to tell me, like, I don't care who else comes through. I'll be cool. I'm chill. But I need to know if Gary's coming through. And everyone's like, got it. So I knew that he was like talking to people, like his people were talking to the team about setting something up. It was on my radar. But then I was like, really like grinding it out, working like 6-7 days a week. I took one day off. And I like turned off my phone and I ate spaghetti and I was like in a moo-moo and I didn't have my eyebrows on. And I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk's videos, writing in my journal, getting all fucking zen. And then the next day I didn't even turn on my phone yet. I'm like, I'm just going to wait until I go into vagination. I'll turn on my phone and like have a moment to plug back into the world. I turn on my phone and it was like, Kelly, Gary's here. Gary's in the kitchen. Did you meet Gary? My friend was flying in, texting me from a flight, like, just want to make sure you're in the kitchen seeing Gary. And literally my heart dropped and I just started crying, like at the community table at Vegination downtown. And I just started crying and I'm like, no, Gary. Damn. Just crying, and the team was like, what's going on? I'm like, yeah, Gary was here. Gary was at my living room. Gary was at my house and I missed it. And they're like, who's Gary? I'm like, Gary Vaynerchuk. And like literally I opened up my computer and it was all Gary's videos because that was the last thing I had on my computer. I'm like, I was listening to his videos and he was in the living room. And like I should have done my laundry that day, but I didn't. And like I wanted to get a glass of water, but I was like, I heard music and there's always something fun going on, but I was like, I don't want to get dressed. I had like spaghetti stain on my moo-moo and like my makeup wasn't on. And I'm like, fuck it.
Nobody knocked on your door?
So
I would have been like, where is she? I'd be like, that's weird.
So
she might be dead.
I talked to everybody and I put out a mass text, like if this ever happens again. So backtrack. Get the messages. I'm crying on the side of the restaurant. I'm calling my mom at work. I'm like, Mom, Gary was here and I missed it. And she was like, who is Gary? What's going on? Why are you crying? And I was like,
I love the voice you make for
It's so good.
It is true. I'll show you guys my Instagram because I just did a video with my mom. She thinks she's like on a reality TV show. When I put her on Instagram, it's hilarious. So
she's tight.
She's so funny. But anyway, I was crying. It was like inconsolable. And then one of my business partners of Lev Restaurant Group walked up to me and he's like, why are you crying on the side of the building? And I just looked at him and I was like, Gary Vaynerchuk was at Ferguson's yesterday and I missed it. And he was like, oh my God, I am so sorry. Cause I talk like almost at every meeting I talk about Gary and like how I've applied the thank you economy to our social media strategy. And like, literally I talk about Gary in almost every meeting there.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, Kelly, I'm so sorry. And so I was texting everyone at Ferguson's. I'm like, is he still there? Like, what's going on? So I met one of his like business associates too, who was staying there. And I talked to him and I told him the story. And he's like, I'm going to try to have him back. Like, I'll let you know. And I'm like, thank you so much. Like, I was just like such that person. Yeah, so I missed it, and I was watching his videos, and literally he was in my living room, and then I saw like the Daily V came out, and all of our neighbors were like, oh, the Daily V came out with him at Ferguson's, and I couldn't even watch it. I still can't really watch it because it makes me cry, because I'm like, I was so close.
Yeah, you were like 10 feet away from him.
Yeah, it's so far.
He was outside your window one point.
Yeah, and I'm like,
Knocking on your door.
yeah, so I talked to all my neighbors, like, if this ever fucking happens again, like, knock on my door,
Smash
get
my
the
window.
key from security, bust through, like, I'm probably just sleeping. And they're like, we're so sorry, we didn't know what to do. We thought you weren't here because you weren't answering us. I'm like, oh my God. I was like, no, it's totally fine, guys. It's fine. But they were so sweet. But yeah, so I had my missing counter, but it was really wild too, because it was like 8 years ago, almost to the day, when Gary was at Ferguson's, that I heard him speak, because he popped up at the Beat, because he was here visiting Tony Shea, and they were looking at like Downtown Project, and I had spoken at an event, Delivering Happiness, the month before at the Beat, and it was my first time public speaking, and I was talking about like my journey and my mission and the projects I was working on, and it was the first time I did public speaking. The next month, Gary Vaynerchuk popped up and did a talk, and I had been following him, and I tweeted at him, and he like wrote me back, and then he even said like, hey, if I was a young person without a family, like I would move to downtown Las Vegas, because that's how much I believe in what's going on here.
Damn.
Yes. So that moment I was like, fuck it, I'm moving back to Vegas. Like that was really like the thing that sealed the deal for me, because I kept getting pulled both ways. Like, do I go back to New York City? I was living in Astoria, where Astoria, Long Island City, is kind of having a similar like renaissance.
Yeah.
Or stay in Vegas, which is kind of even more of a risk. Or do I go to LA? Like, you know what I'm saying? And so when he said that, I'm like, I'm staying. This is it. And so I wanted to like thank him for changing my life. And and it was almost like 8 years to the day that I saw him speak, that he was at the house, but I missed him. But I'm like, it's, you know what? It's building for a really good story. So when I do meet him one day, it's going to be like really cool.
You
that's
can
what
show
I'm
him this clip too.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling myself. I'll show him the podcast episode. But yeah, that was it.
I've been a big fan of Gary Vee, and I've been watching his garage sales.
How
he goes
flipping.
Well, that's what I thought of when you
flips.
said all the stuff in your storage. He would tell you to flip that shit.
Yeah, flip it.
Well, from this point on, Kelly never turned off her phone. Ever again.
I know. So every time I take a day off, I'm like, oh my God. I alert everyone. I'm like, if there's something really amazing going on, like Gary Vaynerchuk here, like I'm off today. I call them my human days. I'm having a human day, but come into my trailer, like bust through the door.
A moo-moo day.
A moo-moo day. I have no eyebrows on, eating spaghetti, just hanging out with Netflix. I'm like, bust through my fucking door.
Yeah.
Because I need to know if Gary's coming
Spaghetti
through.
just on your face.
Yeah. Gary! Yeah.
Well, one of the last key points that I wanted to hit on was because we do want to kind of keep it like at an hour-ish.
We're at an hour 14.
I've been noticing I've been noticing our episodes are really long lately, and it's really easy to lose track of time.
Yep.
But realistically, you covered a lot.
Yeah,
and
you covered a lot.
Fluent. Like, I wish I could speak like that. That's why I don't talk a lot, and I
Thank
keep the
you,
camera
guys.
on YouTube.
So one of the last key points was what do you think are some myths of success that people kind of like talk about that you think
myths of success?
Yeah.
I think a myth is that you have to make a lot of money to be successful, or that it has to look a certain way, or you have to be in a certain location. Like for myself, I had the myth of I had to be in New York City to be successful, and I needed to make a lot of money, and I needed to own a brownstone, and that would be success for me.
Sorry, what's a brownstone?
It's like a row house, like a brick row house. Like you see in like Brooklyn or something.
It's like on the east side.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what it looks like here, but they're very fucking expensive. So, just in my mind, that would be success. Right. And so now I'm like, if I enjoy the work I'm doing, I'm successful. If I'm able really to pay rent and have food to like buy organic produce and, go out to a drink if I want to, or I don't really travel that much or like go out that much with like just like blowing money. But like for myself, like if I'm able to do that and do stuff that I enjoy, like that's success.
You're winning.
Yeah, so I feel that my new success is really the impact I'm making on community, making sure that I'm always consistently reaching out to new people like yourselves, and making relationships and seeing how we could build together. Like, that's success to me. So I think you have to define what success is for yourself and be true to yourself, and not allow someone else's concept of success. Like, you need to climb the corporate ladder or build a multi-billion-dollar app company, you could have success in whatever you're passionate about and just defining it for yourself.
Yeah.
Damn.
We talked about it last week, which was John, sorry.
John.
John. With John about how, if you're happy working for $10 an hour being a janitor and your heart is content, you're successful.
Then be the best janitor you can be.
You've succeeded, right? But because at the same time you have people who make millions and they're unhappy
hate their life.
and they hate their lives.
Yeah.
So success is definitely, I feel like it's a state of mind. It's not because I used to think too, like, be successful is like, oh, you got to have like
Lamborghinis.
not even that was like $10,000-$20,000 in the bank. You got to have a car paid for. You got to have a house, and you got to you have all the necessities, if you will. But the older I get, the more I'm like, success is more. It's a way to feel. You feel successful.
Happiness.
Feeling good.
But yeah. Thank you so much for your thoughts on that.
Of course, my pleasure.
Yeah. We're gonna wrap up this podcast. Awesome. Real quick, for people who want to find you online, where can people find you? And
so personally, at with Kelly Bennett, BENNETT, and withkellybennett.com. That's my personal space where I talk about my journey of curating a community-based economy and all the projects I'm working on, and my blog and podcast is all there. My podcast is with Brave Company, relaunching that, so it should be out by next week, which I'm really stoked about.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and then everything has its own social, like at Market in the Alley, at the Workshop Downtown, and at Vegination, and it would be really cool to hang out with you there too.
Dope. Yeah, we'll definitely make it out there.
Cool.
We're gonna put all your information down in the description below for iTunes, Spotify, YouTube.
Love it.
But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next morning dinner.
Later, y'all.
Every time I come in the kitchen, you in the kitchen. In the goddamn refrigerator.
I sure am hungry.